Golden Age stars who donated their fortunes to charity. The lights, the glamour, the fortune and fame. Golden Age Hollywood stars had it all. But what you might not know is that behind those dazzling smiles and perfect performances, many of these icons were quietly changing the world with their generosity. While gossip columns focused on scandals and romances, these legendary performers were signing away millions to causes that transformed countless lives. Today, we're revealing the extraordinary true stories of Hollywood's greatest givers, stars who didn't just play heroes on screen, but became real-life champions for those in need. Their charitable acts went far beyond publicity stunts, often continuing long after the cameras stopped rolling. These aren't just tales of celebrity philanthropy. They're powerful reminders of how wealth, combined with compassion, can create a lasting legacy that outshines even the brightest Hollywood career. What drives someone who has achieved the pinnacle of fame and fortune to give it all away? For these Golden Age stars, charity wasn't an afterthought. It became their most important role. From founding revolutionary medical institutions to financing educational opportunities for thousands, these celebrities transformed their star power into lasting change. Let's step beyond the familiar headlines and discover the remarkable charitable legacies of Hollywood's most generous stars. Before we dive into these inspirational stories, let's establish what made Golden Age Hollywood such a unique era for philanthropy. From roughly the 1920s through the early 1960s, the studio system created unprecedented wealth for its biggest stars. While many celebrities enjoyed lavish lifestyles, others were profoundly affected by their own humble beginnings or by witnessing suffering during world events like the Great Depression and World Wars. Unlike today, when celebrity charitable giving is often accompanied by press releases and social media campaigns, many Golden Age stars conducted their philanthropy quietly. Some even established foundations or donated substantial portions of their estates without public knowledge until after their deaths. Their giving wasn't driven by tax benefits or image enhancement. It came from deeply personal connections to causes that mattered to them. The studio publicity departments occasionally highlighted stars' charitable work to enhance their public image, but many of Hollywood's biggest givers preferred to operate behind the scenes. They wrote checks, established foundations, and volunteered their time without fanfare, demonstrating a genuine commitment to making a difference rather than seeking praise for their generosity. Now let's meet these remarkable individuals whose giving hearts matched their outsized talents, beginning with number 10, Mary Pickford. Known as America's sweetheart, Mary Pickford wasn't just cinema's first great actress, she was also one of Hollywood's pioneering philanthropists. As a co-founder of United Artists Studio, Pickford accumulated extraordinary wealth during the silent film era, but she never forgot her childhood poverty in Toronto. During World War I, Pickford used her star power to sell millions in Liberty bonds, personally traveling across the country to rally Americans to support the war effort. Her public appearances raised an estimated $5 million for the cause, the equivalent of over $70 million today. But this was just the beginning of her charitable work. In 1921, Pickford co-founded the Motion Picture Relief Fund, now the Motion Picture and Television Fund, with fellow actors Douglas Fairbanks and Charlie Chaplin. The organization provided financial assistance to film industry workers facing hardship, from struggling actors to behind-the-scenes crew members who fell on difficult times. She not only contributed substantial funding, but also convinced fellow stars to donate 0.5% of their salaries to support the cause. But let's not pretend everything was just for publicity. While many stars made token appearances at charity events, Pickford's commitment went much deeper. After retiring from acting, she devoted herself increasingly to philanthropy. She established the Mary Pickford Foundation in 1951 to support numerous causes, from education to healthcare research. What's particularly remarkable about Pickford's giving was her foresight. She structured her foundation to continue its work long after her death in 1979. Today, the Mary Pickford Foundation continues its mission, supporting film preservation, university scholarships, and healthcare initiatives. Her decision to donate her United Artists stock and much of her fortune to charitable causes created a philanthropic legacy that has now lasted longer than her film career. Pickford once said, "Adding joy to life, not just money to life, is good fortune." Through her generous giving, she demonstrated that true wealth comes from what you give away, not what you keep. Number 9. Edward G. Robinson. Edward G. Robinson may have played tough guys and gangsters on screen, but in real life, he was one of Hollywood's most cultured and generous souls. Born Emanuel Goldenberg to a Yiddish-speaking Romanian Jewish family, Robinson built an impressive art collection valued at over $5 million in the 1940s, equivalent to roughly $80 million today. What many don't know is that Robinson's passion for art was matched by his commitment to charitable causes. During the Great Depression, he quietly provided financial support to unemployed actors and crew members, often anonymously paying rent or medical bills for colleagues who had fallen on hard times. As the Nazi threat grew in Europe, Robinson became a leading voice in anti-fascist activities. He donated substantial sums to European refugee relief organizations, helping countless Jewish families escape persecution. His philanthropy wasn't limited to financial contributions. He also used his home as a meeting place for relief organizations and personally signed affidavits to sponsor refugees coming to America. Robinson's most extraordinary act of generosity came late in his life. After a series of poor investments and an expensive divorce, Robinson found himself in financial difficulties. Rather than selling his beloved art collection to private collectors, he donated 59 of his most valuable paintings to the Los Angeles County Museum of Art in 1956. This incredible collection included works by Matisse, Picasso, Renoir, and Degas. The donation, worth millions, was one of the most significant gifts in the museum's history. What makes Robinson's generosity particularly moving was the personal sacrifice it represented. Unlike some wealthy stars who gave from their abundance, Robinson donated his most cherished possessions during a time of personal financial strain. Museum visitors today can still enjoy his extraordinary collection, which he gave away despite facing his own money troubles. When asked about his philanthropy, Robinson modestly said, "I've had a wonderful life. I don't know what I've done to deserve it." This humble attitude characterized a man who, despite playing fearsome characters on screen, dedicated much of his life and fortune to helping others in need. Number 8. Carole Lombard. Carole Lombard's life was tragically cut short at age 33 in a 1942 plane crash, but in her brief time, she established herself not only as Hollywood's queen of screwball comedy, but also as one of its most generous hearts. Lombard's philanthropic efforts took center stage during World War II. In January 1942, she embarked on a war bond tour that raised over $2 million in a single evening, an astonishing sum equivalent to over $35 million today. Tragically, it was while returning from this successful fundraising event that her plane crashed, making her one of the first American celebrities to die in service to the war effort. But Lombard's charitable work began long before that fateful tour. During the Great Depression, she was known for her anonymous donations to families in need. Studio workers later revealed that Lombard would read about struggling families in local newspapers and quietly arrange to pay their rent, medical bills, or other expenses without revealing the source. When the Screen Actors Guild was first organizing, Lombard, then one of Hollywood's highest-paid actresses, was among the first to support the union financially, understanding the importance of protecting the rights and welfare of all industry workers. She frequently donated to the Motion Picture Relief Fund and encouraged other stars to do the same. Lombard's approach to charity was remarkably personal. Rather than simply writing checks to large organizations, she sought out individual cases where she could make an immediate difference. During film productions, she was known to identify crew members going through hardships and find ways to help them, whether through financial assistance or using her connections to find medical specialists for family illnesses. After her untimely death, her husband Clark Gable established the Carole Lombard Memorial Fund, which continued her charitable work for years. The U.S. government honored her wartime fundraising efforts by naming a Liberty ship the SS Carole Lombard. What makes Lombard's philanthropy particularly meaningful was its genuineness. In an era when many stars participated in charity events primarily for publicity, colleagues noted that Lombard's giving came from a place of sincere empathy. She once told a friend, "We're all just temporarily lucky, and we ought to share that luck while we have it." Her life, though brief, exemplified that philosophy. Number 7. Gene Autry. The singing cowboy wasn't just a hero on screen. Gene Autry's generous spirit made him a real-life champion for countless children and veterans. As one of the most successful entertainers of his era, Autry built a substantial fortune through films, recordings, radio, television, and shrewd business investments, including ownership of the California Angels baseball team. Autry's philanthropic focus was shaped by his own experiences serving in the Air Transport Command during World War II. After returning from service, he became deeply committed to supporting veterans' causes. He made substantial donations to the American Legion and veterans of foreign wars, funding programs that provided housing, job training, and medical care for returning service members. Children's charities also benefited tremendously from Autry's generosity. He was a founding donor of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, responding immediately when his friend Danny Thomas began raising funds for the pioneering pediatric treatment and research facility. For decades, Autry made annual contributions that helped St. Jude provide care to children, regardless of their family's ability to pay. But let's not pretend everything was just for show. While many celebrities made token appearances at charity events, Autry's commitment went far deeper. He established the Autry Foundation in 1952 specifically to support youth organizations in California and Oklahoma. The foundation provided millions in funding for children's hospitals, youth sports programs, and educational initiatives. Autry's most enduring philanthropic legacy is the Autry Museum of the American West, which he founded in 1988. He donated his extensive collection of Western art and artifacts, valued at millions, and provided substantial funding to establish the museum. More than just preserving cowboy memorabilia, the institution presents a comprehensive view of the diverse peoples and cultures that shaped the American West. Today, the museum continues to educate hundreds of thousands of visitors annually about Western history. Unlike many stars of his era, Autry was remarkably transparent about his charitable intentions. He often said, "I've been lucky enough to make some money from movies and music, but I'm just temporary caretaker of it. My real job is to make sure it does some good in the world." Through his foundation and museum, Autry ensured his fortune would continue benefiting others long after his passing in 1998. Number 6. Hedy Lamarr. Remembered primarily for her extraordinary beauty and film career, Hedy Lamarr led a double life as both a Hollywood star and a brilliant inventor whose technological innovations now benefit billions of people. But beyond her scientific contributions, Lamarr was also a remarkable philanthropist whose giving reflected her unique combination of glamour and genius. Born in Austria to Jewish parents, Lamarr escaped Nazi-controlled Europe in 1937 and made her way to Hollywood. Her experiences left her with a lifelong commitment to helping refugees and displaced persons. During and after World War II, she donated substantially to refugee relief organizations and personally sponsored several Jewish families' immigration to America, covering their travel expenses and helping them establish new lives. Lamarr's most unique contribution came through her invention of frequency hopping technology, which she developed with composer George Antheil during World War II. Originally designed to prevent the jamming of radio-guided torpedoes, this technology later became fundamental to Bluetooth and Wi-Fi systems. In a remarkable act of generosity, Lamarr never profited from this invention that would later be worth billions. Instead, she donated her patent to the U.S. Navy as part of the war effort. Though she could have become enormously wealthy from her invention, Lamarr chose a different form of giving. In the 1950s, she established a foundation that focused on supporting technological education for disadvantaged youth, particularly girls interested in science. She recognized the challenges faced by women in STEM fields and wanted to help create opportunities she never had. Lamarr's philanthropy extended to healthcare as well. After her son was diagnosed with diabetes, she became a major donor to research organizations working on treatments. She funded several research grants at universities studying endocrine disorders and advocated for improved access to insulin for low-income patients. What makes Lamarr's charitable work particularly interesting is how it contradicted her public image. While the world saw her as merely a beautiful actress, she was using her intelligence and resources to solve problems both through her inventions and her strategic giving. As she grew older and her film career waned, she devoted increasing time and resources to her charitable interests. Lamarr once remarked, "Films have a certain place in a certain time period. Technology is forever." The same could be said of her philanthropy, which created a lasting impact that transcended her Hollywood fame. Today, organizations like the Hedy Lamarr Foundation continue her commitment to supporting young women in technology fields. Number 5. Bob Hope. For nearly 50 years, Bob Hope's name was synonymous with entertaining American troops overseas, but his commitment to service members went far beyond his famous USO tours. Behind the jokes and celebrity cameos was a serious philanthropic mission that made Hope one of Hollywood's greatest givers. Hope's dedication to the troops began during World War II and continued through conflicts in Korea, Vietnam, Lebanon, and the Persian Gulf. What's less known is that Hope personally funded many aspects of these tours when military budgets fell short. He also made substantial donations to veteran support organizations, including the USO, Disabled American Veterans, and the Bob Hope Veterans Support Program. But Hope's philanthropy extended well beyond military causes. Education was a particular passion, leading him to donate millions to establish scholarship funds at numerous institutions. The most significant was at his adopted alma mater, Cleveland State University, where he gave over $10 million to endow scholarships for deserving students who couldn't afford college. Today, hundreds of Bob Hope scholars graduate annually thanks to his generosity. But let's not pretend everything was publicly acknowledged. Many of Hope's most significant donations were made anonymously. Former staff members revealed that Hope would often read about local tragedies in the newspaper and quietly arrange to cover medical bills or funeral expenses for families in need. What makes Hope's philanthropy particularly impressive was its scope and longevity. From the 1940s until his death in 2003 at age 100, he maintained a consistent commitment to giving. Rather than making a single large donation for publicity, Hope established foundations and endowments designed to provide ongoing support for his chosen causes. The Guinness Book of World Records recognized Hope as the most honored entertainer in history, with over 2,000 awards and citations for humanitarian and professional achievements. But perhaps his greatest achievement was ensuring that his fortune, estimated at over $500 million, would continue supporting worthy causes through the Bob and Dolores Hope Foundation, which remains active today. As Hope himself once quipped, "If you haven't got any charity in your heart, you have the worst kind of heart trouble." Number 4. Audrey Hepburn. Audrey Hepburn's elegant presence on screen captured hearts worldwide, but her most important work came long after her Hollywood career waned. The woman who personified grace in films like Roman Holiday and Breakfast at Tiffany's dedicated the final years of her life to saving children in the world's most desperate places. Hepburn's commitment to humanitarian work was rooted in her own childhood experiences. During World War II, she suffered malnutrition under Nazi occupation in the Netherlands and received food and medical aid from UNICEF relief workers. This personal connection to hunger and hardship shaped her lifelong compassion for suffering children. In 1988, Hepburn was appointed a UNICEF Special Ambassador, but unlike some celebrity ambassadors who made token appearances, she threw herself completely into the work. Between 1988 and 1992, she conducted over 50 field missions to places devastated by war, famine, and poverty. She visited Ethiopia during its devastating famine, brought attention to polio vaccination programs in Turkey, and traveled to war-torn Somalia just months before her death. What made Hepburn's humanitarian work extraordinary was her hands-on approach. Well into her 60s and already battling the cancer that would eventually take her life, she visited refugee camps, orphanages, and feeding centers in some of the world's most dangerous regions. Rather than simply lending her name to the cause, she held dying children, comforted mothers, and witnessed suffering firsthand so she could effectively advocate for those in need. Beyond her fieldwork, Hepburn donated a substantial portion of her personal fortune to UNICEF and other children's charities. She established the Audrey Hepburn Children's Fund specifically to continue her work protecting vulnerable children around the world. Additionally, she directed that a significant percentage of her estate and future earnings from her image be donated to UNICEF. Hepburn's approach to charity was remarkably humble. When praised for her humanitarian work, she often said, "I'm not doing anything that thousands of other people aren't doing. I'm just in a position where I can call attention to needs." This modesty belied the extraordinary impact of her advocacy, which raised millions of dollars for children's programs and brought critical attention to forgotten humanitarian crises. After her death from cancer in 1993, the United Nations awarded her the Presidential Medal of Freedom in recognition of her humanitarian work. But her greatest legacy lives on in the countless children saved through programs she championed and in the Audrey Hepburn Children's Fund, which continues supporting child protection efforts worldwide. While many remember Hepburn for her beauty and film career, she herself hoped for a different legacy, saying, "As you grow older, you will discover that you have two hands, one for helping yourself, the other for helping others." Through her extraordinary humanitarian commitment, she used both hands to transform countless lives. Number 3, Danny Kaye. Danny Kaye's manic energy and unique comedic talents made him a beloved star, but his most significant role was one the cameras rarely captured, that of a tireless advocate for the world's children. Kaye's philanthropy went went far beyond financial donations, as he literally traveled millions of miles as UNICEF's first Goodwill ambassador. Kay's journey to becoming one of Hollywood's greatest humanitarians began almost by accident. In 1953, while on a trip to London, he was asked by a UNICEF official if he would consider visiting some of their programs. What was meant to be a brief courtesy call turned into a life-changing experience when Kay witnessed firsthand the organization's work helping children in developing countries. Moved by what he saw, Kay made an unprecedented commitment. He would use his celebrity status to bring attention to children's needs, but he wanted to do more than attend galas or make public service announcements. Beginning in 1954, he embarked on missions to UNICEF programs worldwide, often traveling to remote and dangerous areas that celebrities typically avoided. What set Kay's humanitarian work apart was its authenticity and personal sacrifice. He funded many of these missions himself, spending months away from Hollywood at the height of his career. In war zones, refugee camps, and disaster areas, he connected with children through his universal language of pantomime and physical comedy, bringing moments of joy to young people who had experienced unimaginable suffering. Kay's advocacy wasn't limited to field visits. He produced and starred in the documentary Assignment Children, chronicling UNICEF's work in developing countries. The film, which he personally financed, was seen by over 100 million people and raised unprecedented awareness and funding for children's programs. His annual televised appearances hosting the UNICEF Halloween Collection campaign turned trick-or-treating into an opportunity for American children to help their peers worldwide. With his wife, Sylvia Fine, he established the Danny Kaye and Sylvia Fine Kaye Foundation, which continues supporting children's causes, performing arts education, and healthcare initiatives. Kaye's most enduring philanthropic legacy may be his role in establishing UNICEF as a recognized force for children worldwide. His advocacy was instrumental in UNICEF receiving the Nobel Peace Prize in 1965, and his example inspired countless other celebrities to leverage their fame for humanitarian causes. When asked about balancing his entertainment career with his humanitarian work, Kaye simply said, "To help a child is the purest joy I know." This philosophy guided his remarkable life of service until his death in 1987. Today, the Danny Kaye Humanitarian Award continues honoring those who follow in his footsteps, recognizing that true stardom is measured not just by fame, but by the lives one touches. Number 2, Paul Newman. While younger generations might know Paul Newman best for his salad dressings and pasta sauces, this legendary actor created one of the most successful charitable endeavors in Hollywood history, Newman's Own, a food company that has donated 100% of its profits to charity since its founding in 1982. Newman's path to becoming a philanthropic powerhouse began almost as a joke. When he and his friend A.E. Hotchner made homemade salad dressing as Christmas gifts, the recipients enjoyed it so much that they suggested selling it commercially. Newman initially resisted the idea, but eventually agreed with one condition: all profits would go to charity. What started with a single product sold in a few Connecticut stores quickly grew into a major food company offering dozens of items. True to Newman's promise, every cent of profit after taxes, now totaling over $570 million, has been donated to thousands of charities. This unprecedented business model transformed Newman from a successful actor into one of America's greatest philanthropists. Newman's charitable focus extended beyond the food company. In 1988, he founded the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp, a free summer camp for children with serious illnesses. Named after the outlaws from his film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, the camp provided a place where sick children could, in Newman's words, kick back and raise a little hell. The original Connecticut camp has since expanded to a global network of camps and programs serving over 20,000 children annually. But let's not pretend everything was planned from the beginning. Newman's philanthropic journey evolved organically, genuine desire to give back. What makes his charitable work particularly impressive was its entrepreneurial approach. Rather than simply donating a portion of his wealth, Newman created a sustainable business model that generates ongoing charitable funding. Long after his death in 2008, Newman's Own continues providing millions annually to worthy causes. Unlike many celebrities who pursue philanthropy primarily for publicity, Newman avoided drawing attention to his giving. He rarely attended fundraisers for his own foundation and declined having buildings named after him. When pressed about his generosity, he would often deflect with humor, saying things like, "I just happen to think that in life we need to be a little like the farmer who puts back into the soil what he takes out." Number 1, Charlie Chaplin. At the top of our list is cinema's first global superstar, Charlie Chaplin. While most remember him for creating the iconic Little Tramp character and directing masterpieces like City Lights and Modern Times, few recognize Chaplin as one of the most significant philanthropists of Hollywood's golden age. Born into extreme poverty in Victorian London, Chaplin never forgot his humble origins, even after becoming one of the wealthiest entertainers in the world. His childhood experiences in workhouses and dealing with his mother's mental illness created a lifelong empathy for society's most vulnerable members. During World War I, Chaplin was criticized for not enlisting, but he contributed to the war effort in a different way, through his checkbook. He personally purchased $350,000 in Liberty bonds, equivalent to over $7 million today, and conducted a tour with fellow stars Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks that raised millions more. Additionally, he sent his films free of charge to military camps to entertain troops. Chaplin's philanthropy took on a particularly personal dimension during the Great Depression. He established soup kitchens throughout Los Angeles, often working anonymously alongside volunteers. According to his son Charles Jr., Chaplin would sometimes slip away from film sets to check on these operations, ensuring they were serving those in need with dignity and respect. His commitment to children's causes was especially notable. In the 1920s, he established trust funds for hundreds of war orphans in France and England, providing for their education and basic needs. He made substantial donations to children's hospitals and orphanages throughout his career, with many of these gifts made anonymously or under strict confidentiality. Chaplin's most significant philanthropic contribution may have been his support for refugee relief during and after World War II. As Hitler rose to power, Chaplin, despite not being Jewish himself, became one of the most vocal anti-Nazi voices in Hollywood. He donated substantial sums to organizations helping European refugees and personally sponsored dozens of Jewish families fleeing persecution, covering their immigration costs and helping them establish new lives in America. What makes Chaplin's philanthropy particularly remarkable is that it continued despite personal and professional setbacks. Even after being forced to leave America during the McCarthy era and having millions in assets frozen, he continued supporting humanitarian causes from his exile in Switzerland. According to family members, he directed approximately 40% of his lifetime earnings to charitable causes, an extraordinary percentage even by today's philanthropic standards. Chaplin was notoriously private about his charitable giving, believing that public acknowledgement diminished the spirit of generosity. When questioned about his philanthropy late in life, he simply said, "I went into the slums of London and I saw the poverty and the hurt. Why wouldn't I give? I know what it is to have nothing." Today, the Charlie Chaplin Foundation continues his legacy of giving, supporting arts education for disadvantaged youth, and humanitarian relief efforts worldwide. His commitment to using his wealth to help others established a philanthropic tradition in Hollywood that continues to inspire celebrities to this day. These remarkable stars weren't just entertaining audiences. They were quietly changing the world through extraordinary generosity that often went unrecognized during their lifetimes. Hear me out. This wasn't about tax write-offs or publicity stunts. These were deeply personal missions born from their own experiences with hardship, war, and injustice. Many of these celebrities gave away substantial portions of their wealth, sometimes virtually everything they had. Paul Newman directed over $500 million to charity through Newman's Own. Charlie Chaplin donated approximately 40% of his lifetime earnings to humanitarian causes. Audrey Hepburn spent her final years traveling to war zones and refugee camps despite battling cancer. What makes their philanthropy particularly powerful was its continuing impact. Through foundations, endowments, and innovative funding models, these stars ensured their giving would outlive them. The Motion Picture Relief Fund, established with support from Mary Pickford and others, has now provided assistance to entertainment industry workers for over a century. Newman's Own continues generating millions annually for charity. The Audrey Hepburn Children's Fund still protects vulnerable children worldwide. These weren't just wealthy celebrities writing occasional checks. They were visionaries who recognized their fortune, and fame gave them unique opportunities to address society's most pressing problems. Their approaches varied, from Hedy Lamarr donating her groundbreaking patent to Bob Hope entertaining troops in combat zones, but they shared a fundamental commitment to using their resources to improve others' lives. So what can we learn from these Golden Age philanthropists? I believe their examples reveal important truths about meaningful giving that remain relevant today. These stars understood that effective philanthropy goes beyond financial donations. It requires personal investment, strategic thinking, and a genuine connection to causes that matter. Many of these celebrities use their unique talents and platforms as part of their giving. Danny didn't just donate money to UNICEF. He traveled to remote areas bringing joy to children through his comedy. Audrey Hepburn used her diplomatic skills and multilingual abilities to advocate for children in crisis. They recognized that their celebrity status gave them advocacy power that sometimes exceeded their financial contributions. Perhaps most importantly, they demonstrated that philanthropy isn't just for the ultra-wealthy. Stars like Carole Lombard began giving generously long before reaching the peak of their earning potential. Edward G. Robinson donated his most precious possessions even when facing financial difficulties of his own. They understood that generosity is a mindset, not just a matter of means. The legacies of these Golden Age philanthropists remind us that a life well lived isn't measured by fame or fortune accumulated, but by the positive difference one makes in others' lives. In an industry often criticized for excess and self-absorption, these stars demonstrated that genuine compassion and generosity represent the true height of success. As we remember these Hollywood legends, let's celebrate not just their artistic achievements, but also their remarkable humanitarian legacies that continue improving lives decades after their final curtain calls. And that concludes our look at the extraordinary charitable legacies of Golden Age Hollywood's most generous stars. While their films captured our imaginations, their philanthropy transformed countless lives in ways that continue to this day. These weren't just celebrities who occasionally supported good causes, they were visionary humanitarians who understood that true wealth is measured by what you give, not what you keep. If you enjoyed this glimpse into Hollywood's generous heart, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content exploring the golden era of cinema. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Were you surprised by any of these stars' charitable work? Are there other Golden Age celebrities whose philanthropy deserves recognition? Drop a comment below and let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll uncover more inspiring stories from Hollywood's golden past.